It's no secret that you're referring to an organisation called Equality Australia. The CEO is Anna Brown, one of the leaders of the same-sex marriage campaign. Surprise, surprise. They didn't stop fighting once they won same-sex marriage. They've kept on a crusade to undermine Christian schools, and they've whipped up fear, and you've said this in your media release, unfounded fears that LGBT students might be expelled from faith-based schools. Is that actually true, Mark?
It's absolutely not true. And we've been making that very clear since 2018 when these claims were first raised. That is simply a lie. There has never been a case that we can find where a student has been expelled simply on the basis of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, we have had students who may be LGBT who have been expelled from our schools, but when you look at the details of what's happened there, they've been expelled for behavioural problems in the same way as any other student would. What some people are trying to impose on faith-based schools here is special privileges for a particular group of students based around their sexual orientation or gender identity. And that's simply unfair.
That's good to clear that up. Mark, the Australian Law Reform Commission discussion paper, which caused a lot of angst back in February, gave some examples of what it thinks religious schools should not be allowed to do. One was to take disciplinary action against a staff member or a teacher who attended a Pride event. But this year's Sydney World Pride advertised animal fetish parties and a sexuality parade that featured puppies, ponies and whips. Now, most parents would be very concerned about a role model in their child's school who attended events that mixed sex, people and animals. Most mainstream parents would not consider such a teacher an appropriate role model. I certainly wouldn't for my kids. Why shouldn't a school be allowed to exercise discretion when it comes to employment of someone involved in that sort of activity?
And again, you're asking a great question. And I think the phrase you use there, role model, I think that's really at the nub of this. We're looking for staff in our schools, not just to impart curriculum or to teach subject content, but to be role models for students. We're not dealing with young people who are simply brains on a stick that you fill up with content. And the classic example that's used is a maths teacher. We get asked all the time, why do you need to be Christian and teach maths? But I'm not sure about you, but I can't remember what I was taught in Year 9 and Year 10 maths, but I can remember my Year 9 and Year 10 maths teacher. They were also the footy coach, as it happened. Now, teachers just don't do one thing. There are a range of things. They are a role model to students in their school. And that's the crux of what we're trying to do in Christian schools like ours. We want to be a community of faith, as the government has identified and recognised in the terms of reference for the Law Reform Commission. And we need to maintain that community of faith. And to do that, we need to have people who share our beliefs and share that faith.
Yeah, it seems like the Law Reform Commission is way out of touch with the wishes of parents. Like you, Mark, I don't remember anything I was taught in high school maths either, but I do remember my maths teacher's fast bowling on Friday afternoon cricket practice. Now, Mark, during the same-sex marriage plebiscite, the leaders of the same-sex marriage movement, Anna Brown was one of them who's now with Equality Australia cashed up and going after Christian schools. They repeatedly said that concerns about religious freedom were furphies and red herrings. Were the Australian people told the truth during the same-sex marriage plebiscite? And
I've seen that interview where you were part of that, Lyle, and some of the things that were said, and you pushed back and challenged some of those assumptions, and you were told, you were sure that it was never going to happen. It was going to be the end of it. I think many people in Australia, look, Australians want a fair go. That's fundamental to who we are. And I think many people in Australia thought that providing for same-sex marriage was part of a fair go, and that was the end of the debate. We've clearly seen that hasn't been the end of the debate. What we're now looking for is more than a fair go, but really for special privileges for particular groups within our society. And that's where I think most people in Australia are saying, it's gone too far. And the Australian public, I have great faith in them. Certainly our polling has indicated they're strongly supportive of our right to employ staff who share our beliefs. It is, as you said right at the beginning, a fairly simple, fairly obvious presumption that faith-based schools can employ people of faith. So I have a lot of hope in the Australian public and common sense prevailing. But I do wonder whether we were given the full picture back in that debate.